Cold weather has been causing havoc in East and Central Europe. In Serbia, emergency workers risked their lives, according to the electricity company, to mend power cables which had been brought down by high winds and ice up to 20 centimetres thick. For 3 days, people have been without electricity, heating or running water. Elsewhere in Europe, there's been similar disruption to daily life. In Lower Austria, many schools and roads have been closed for security reasons.
People just can't stop talking about this mysterious boom heard throughout western New York. Happened over the weekend, just 2 hours before an earthquake was recorded in South Lockport.
It was huge.
Coincidentally, loud booms were also heard in England at the same time the sound was heard here in western New York.
Many people who live in West Warwick, including me, are wondering what was happening when a loud boom shook their houses.
A lot of people are talking about this.
It's very weird. This is twice it's happened now, too.
It sounded like thunder.
We heard a boom and then resonation after that.
In the middle of the night, many of you woke up to a rumble that shook your homes and rattled your windows.
It sounded like an explosion.
The house was shaking.
It went boom!
Like a great big huge clap of thunder.
Something different than I've ever experienced.
It was loud. It was a shocker. That's the first time I ever come out of bed that quick.
There were 17,000 lightning strikes during the wild weather over southeast Queensland. So much water, at times it was hard to see the road.
Danger was narrowly avoided in Toowoomba when a funnel formed above the town yesterday, but fortunately it didn't touch the ground. A destructive water spout in Hervey Bay did make landfall, twisting metal around power line.
Standing with his wife in the kitchen, Rob Wecker thought he was safe from the storm.
Saw a massive streak of light come through the kitchen and hit me.
The lightning bolt struck his elbow, travelled through his arm and out of his hand.
Record-breaking storm pounding the west coast, causing mudslides, flash floods, and massive sinkholes in the streets. San Francisco hit so hard.
Cars submerged and traffic snarled for 18 miles. In San Francisco, the water was up to some drivers' windows.
This morning, a gaping sinkhole in the middle of this San Francisco street. The powerful storm turning roadways into waterways. Look at this major freeway just north of San Francisco.
Some 400,000 fish in a popular Marion County lake are dead.
The first thing that hit us when we arrived was the smell of the fish. And then we found scenes like this all over the lake. Dead fish as far as the eye can see.
A marine mystery is unfolding on South Australia's York Peninsula, where a pod of 7 sperm whales has beached and died. This is believed to be the first ever beaching of sperm whales in South Australia.
It was more dangerous hail and heavy rain as Sydney was battered by storms yet again. The bad weather's causing trouble right across the state.
Throughout the afternoon, the latest storm fronts have seen hail hammering down the northern suburbs and northern beaches, particularly copping a battering. This was at Waitara, as Sydney-siders found themselves handling hailstones almost golf ball size. As the system moved across the north, it brought a bucketing to St Ives, enough to turn backyards white. On the south coast, rescue came from above, from the river left raging by torrential rain. Then there's been this week's lightning.
Wow! Whoa!
Uma Pekkanen just a few cars behind when the bolt felled the tree onto another vehicle.
It was shocking. I've never seen anything like that in my life.
In Preston's, the shock came from a power pole fire.
See, it's going to blow. Move, 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 move.
Sydney copped another drenching today, making the past week one of the wettest on record.
Those familiar black clouds rolled in a little earlier today, but were just as intense. Temperatures at Penrith dropped 10 degrees in half an hour. It has become Sydney's storm o'clock, and yesterday another afternoon blast of pelting rain. Battering hail. Dangerous driving conditions. Shock. And awe.
This is crazy.
Transport was disrupted and thousands of homes had their power cut off in a storm that struck Scotland, Northern Ireland and Northern England.
It's not unusual to have big Atlantic storms barrelling towards Scotland at this time of year, but this is a weather bomb, a rapidly intensifying depression with the pressure plunging in the eye of the storm by at least 24 millibars in 24 hours. And it's leading to wave heights in excess of 50 feet or 16 metres. The atrocious weather is being fueled by strong transatlantic jet stream. The high-altitude winds are racing along at 230 miles an hour.
The storm is the first of the winter and it has thrown everything at Scotland. Hail, snow, thunder, lightning. As wind and tide begin to rise, the sea state is described as phenomenal, a word used only for the worst conditions.
Days of heavy rain in Sao Paulo in Brazil have left parts of the city flooded. It comes after the region experienced its worst drought in 80 years.
Sounds so benign. The Pineapple Express sounds almost nice, but no, this is an atmospheric river that stems from the warm waters around Hawaii. It's like adding gas to a big fire, and that fire is that developing storm that is hitting now in parts of Northern California, Oregon, and Washington state.
Hurricane-like conditions knocking out power to 150,000 people and businesses in the Bay Area. It began snowing in the Sierra Nevada near Lake Tahoe, where 2 to 3 feet of snow.
Look at these homes dangling above the water. Large chunks of land cracking and falling into the rough waters below.
The usually dry Los Angeles River actually became one.
Almost a foot of rain. Winds up to 147 miles an hour in the mountains. Waves pounding the west coast.
There hasn't been a twister in South LA since one touchdown along King Boulevard and along Broadway back in the mid-1980s. It was just after 9:30 this morning when the small funnel cloud touched down along Gonzalo Avenue here in South LA.
Local fishermen were shocked to find hundreds of dead fish floating down Bolivia's Rio Grande on Monday. Residents from the town of Abapo, where the dead fish were discovered, have been left wondering what had happened.
Rescuers have been struggling to reach more than 100 missing people on Indonesia's main island of Java. Torrential rain triggered a landslide that buried houses and destroyed an entire village. It was the second landslide in several days.
The burst water main created a sinkhole in Melbourne overnight, swallowing 3 cars whole and flooding 3 homes and threatening 50 more homes. The water main burst just after 2:30 this morning, with residents awaking to the sound of rushing water.
Bizarre-looking ice pancakes have formed on the River Dee in Aberdeenshire.
The formations are more commonly seen in the Antarctic.
Gale force winds and driving snow hit Iceland in December 2014. This is what it was like to be caught in the middle of the storm. This picturesque landscape was being hit by several feet of snow and pounded by some of the strongest winds Iceland has seen.
We were actually looking north when bright light occurred, and we didn't know what was going on. It exploded into a couple of different little small fireballs. Initially it was blue coming through, a really brilliant blue, almost like an arc welder.
December tornado touching down in southern Mississippi, moving right through the town of Columbia, knocking out power to thousands, flipping over vehicles, and damaging dozens of homes and businesses.
Indonesia is suffering its worst flooding in a decade, forcing almost 250,000 people from their homes. More than 20 people in the northeast have died.
Nearly 70 miles an hour yesterday in Los Angeles. Sparks flew after a palm tree hit power lines early Christmas morning. Look at that. It is snowing fire. The trees burst into flames. High winds sent the burning embers everywhere and did actually spark a brush fire. Whoa, that is not good. I've never seen it like that in a city.
It was one of the busiest days in the ski calendar, and it ended in chaos. Some 15,000 vehicles left stranded in the French Alps as snow and ice caused gridlock on slippery roads. A 27-year-old man lost his life after his car slid into a ravine.
Snowplows are at work in the Netherlands too, for the first time in 2 years. In southwest Germany, some streets are so laden with snow and ice that even snowplows ended up in the ditch.
This was the scene in the English Midlands, where drivers became marooned in Derbyshire. In Italy, strong winds as well as snow aggravated the problems in the centre and the south.
Cold snap has swept across Greece and brought snow to Athens, the capital, and the nation's northern mountainous regions.
The intense cold wave in northern and eastern India has claimed more than 130 lives so far this year. The continuing spell of fog and cold has also caused travel chaos, especially in the capital, New Delhi. Officials say the death figure resulting from cold could be much higher, as thousands of homeless people are forced to spend night out on the streets.
Dozens have been killed in heavy rains and flash floods across parts of the Philippines, Malaysia and southern Thailand. Tropical storm Jiangmi has left at least 31 dead in the Philippines. Areas affected by the heavy rains include those still recovering from last year's typhoon Haiyan. Flooding has wiped out roads and bridges and forced thousands to flee to evacuation centres.
4 people have been killed after lightning strikes on a crowded beach in southern Brazil. The incident occurred during a sudden storm along the coast of southeastern Sao Paulo. Local media reported they were members of the same family, a husband and his pregnant wife and her uncle and aunt. According to local reports, they were trying to shelter themselves from heavy rain in a kiosk when they were struck by lightning. Another 4 people were injured in a separate lightning strike when a sudden storm hit another beach nearby.
Storm sweeping through the Southern California mountains this New Year's.
More than 100 motorists trapped on a highway in heavy snow. A car accident led to major delays during a winter storm. By the time the accident was cleared, many cars were unable to get out thanks to a foot of new snow.
Washington State couple is safe this morning after barely surviving 2 avalanches. The snow came roaring toward them Saturday in the Mount Baker Snoqualmie National Forest, northeast of Seattle.
People scream and are caught off guard when a freak wind gust whips tents and canopies off the ground at the Rose Bowl. At least 4 people were hurt.
Hundreds of meteor sightings overnight in the east.
A fireball was spotted in nearly a dozen states, including New Jersey and Pennsylvania.
É louco! Olha isso, velho! Olha isso, velho! Ô louco, velho!